Welcome to We Are Soccer. Today, I'm joined by Benjamin Johns, an American playing in the professional Latvian soccer leagues. First off, before we get into that, Benjamin, welcome to We Are Soccer, man. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
All right, listen. So you moved from here in Michigan, Livonia, Michigan specifically, to Macclesfield FC in England. That's a big jump and a really cool one, if I'm being honest. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I was playing for Livonia Churchill. I was a 3-year varsity starter, 2-year captain, 15 and 16 years old. I graduated high school when I was 17 with very few college offers, but US soccer didn't really interest me at the time. I like to play quite technically and I like to play with high detail, which is more European. And the US game is developing, but 3 or 4 years ago, it was still a bit behind. So I got in contact with a scout from Macclesfield FC who saw me play a bit and was interested. I spoke with him for 2 months, and then I got an official offer to go to Macclesfield Town and play for their under-19s. Then I moved up quite quickly to their under-23s and ended up getting a chance to play with the first team on a couple occasions, which was an extraordinary opportunity. I know when I made my debut a couple months ago in an official match with the first team, I played and I came on for Danny Simpson, who actually won the Premier League with Leicester in 2016, I believe.
Yeah.
I played with or met actually Wayne Rooney's brother, John Rooney, who played with the first team. Many big name players play there. And I had the opportunity to work with some very high class, high level coaches in the environment. It's a professional environment, and the detail and the tactical detail is extremely high. So I learned quite a lot over there. Although it was tough to leave everybody I knew and my family, it was a great stepping stone.
That's awesome. Listen, it sounds like you made the best decision for you. These days we don't see a lot of players passing up that opportunity to go play college, to go play pro ball here. They go over there, but it sounds like one heck of an opportunity, and you've taken advantage of it. What what about that chance, that opportunity at Macclesfield? What do you think you picked up the most? Was it the professionalism? Was it day in, day out, working with these players who have been in the game 10, 15 years or more? Is that what really appealed to you? Was it the opportunity to grow your game in a different way?
Yeah, I think that the biggest attraction factor for me was stepping foot into Europe and really learning the game with people that have been playing tactically and technically detailed since they were young, learning from coaches who have coached at the top level. I know my coach was part of many clubs in the Ecuadorian First Division in South America, a very big league in South America. I know two of my coaches coached at Juventus FC. So it's a very good environment that I really took the most out of it, staying after trainings, asking questions, asking to go over film many times in the week, asking for extra sessions, always blowing up my coach's phones, asking them more questions about what do I do in this situation? What do you think about this? Let's go over film. Look at this clip. What do you think? I think the biggest thing personally for me was testing myself. At home, it was quite easy and always is quite easy to stay disciplined and work hard because I wake up and I'm around my family every day. And it's a reminder of a big portion of the reason I do what I do. And I'm around the people I love. So I have that support system around me. So it's quite easy. When I left, I was 17, not so easy living on my own or with a couple teammates. And obviously, there's quite a few distractions. In Europe, you can go to the club when you're 18. So many teammates get quite distracted, but I had one goal in my mind, and I still do have one goal in my mind. So the discipline and the test of how to grow in my discipline was the biggest part that I really had to learn from that, and I really had to dive into it and face it head on. I couldn't hide from it.
Yeah. You know, the I love the word discipline. You've used it 2 or 3 times now. And I've talked to several high professional players in this country. Dwan Jones, who plays for New England, U.S. men's national team player, Kellen Acosta, Chicago Fire, and U.S. men's national team player. And both of those players say the same thing. There's distractions when you're younger. You've got to stay disciplined. Benjamin, you seem to have your head on your shoulders and have a one goal in mind. And I love the fact that you are using the same word that guys who are several years ahead of you have been using. So I have no doubt you will get to where you want to go. Tell us about your move from Macclesfield to JFK Ventspils. It's an interesting move to go to the Latvian First Division. Tell us about how that came about and how you're enjoying your time there.
Right. So I actually have a mentor, Sam Yali is his name. He's from England and Ghana. And I met him. He's a football coach or soccer coach in Ann Arbor. And I met him through a friend of mine, a business owner.
Mhm.
And I recognized since a young age, both my parents are social workers and quite involved in marketing operations. And I recognize from them that networking is key, right? So once I realized that from a young age, I was speaking to not only people in the football world, because I heard a quote from Kobe saying that I needed to use the world as my library, as anything I could be golfing and getting better at football just by focusing on technique, or maybe it's the discipline of your temperament, right? So once I learned that and I included that in my daily thinking, I was talking to any business owner, anybody who really took their life seriously. I was talking to them and who do you know? What do you think about this? And I never approached it from an entitled perspective. I always approached it as, how can I help this person? And then how can I transition the conversation into not necessarily helping me, but who do you know? Maybe you know somebody that could help me. Maybe I know somebody that could help you. And so I met this guy, Sam Yali, and he came over to my parents' house after seeing me play a couple times and training with me a couple times. And he said, I was actually in England, and he came over to my parents' house and they called me and he said, look, I've played in the professional game for 15 years in London, and your son has he calls it the sauce. He says he's got talent, and you need to get exposure. He needs to be seen. He needs to get in people's eyes who can move him. And that was 11 months ago, actually. Before that point, I was extremely focused on my development as an athlete, as a young man, and as a footballer. But from that moment forward, I added in development of a network and exposure. And 11 months later, I ended up signing my first professional contract. And that move came because every coach I had ever known, Dominic Cicluna was my first coach, Dominic and Mario Cicluna, big names in Metro Detroit.
Yes,
My
sir.
first coaches, I got in contact with them. Who do you know? Sam Yali knew a couple people. He tried to help me out in England. Obviously, making my first team debut and being around people in the club, I tried to use everybody in the club to my advantage, whether it was development or networking. Robbie Savage helped me out a bit with some advice, as well as watching me play a few times to push me to play for the first team. And the biggest thing was I ended up stumbling across an agent I knew, and I had lived with him for a couple years, and I knew him very well. And I had a couple trials in Northern Europe, Sweden, Denmark, and I had clubs that wanted to sign me over there. But everything's not so straightforward in the football world. There's no real straight path. In the US, they try to make a straight path, which you can go Division I to the MLS. But in Europe, there's no reality of that. You can't do that. So I was playing for a good academy, and I needed to figure out a way to jump into the men's professional level. So by networking for 10 to 11 months, I found a couple agents, a couple coaches, and a couple scouts. I ended up getting a couple trials. And then the agent really likes my talent. So he said, please come to this team. And I ended up showing up to this team 10 days ago. I trained one session with them, and the sporting director said, I wanted to sign you now. And 2 days later, I signed a contract. They saw me and they liked what they had. And now I am here.
Benjamin, that's awesome. Yeah, again, I'm going to say it. It sounds like you got your head on your shoulders. You've got focus and discipline, and that's what it takes. A lot of people think just playing in a couple of games or playing with a team will get you found. That's not how it works anymore.
No.
There's a little bit of luck involved here and there, but it's hard work on and off the field. I'm happy that you have it, and there's still a lot more to go, right? There's a long way to go. You could be with this team for a couple of years and then make the next jump. So there's a lot more to go. Tell me about this. I know you haven't been there very long, but how's Latvia? How's the team treating you? How are you fitting in? How's it? How are you adjusting?
Well, the language barrier is a bit interesting. I speak English pretty well, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So learning other languages is always tough in my mind because I want to speak them as well as I speak English.
sure.
So the coach speaks only Russian. The
Oof.
rest of the team speaks mainly Latvian. There's one guy who translates to English for us.
Yeah,
There's a couple foreign players, two from Africa, one from Haiti, and one from Colombia. And I speak Spanish pretty well, so I've pretty much been speaking Spanish the past 10 days of my life. But otherwise, the team is very welcoming. The coaches are very welcoming. I had to earn their respect as a player, of course, but they're pretty welcoming and they try to help as much as they can with the English.
good, good. I like to hear that they're helping and they're welcoming. You know, the funny thing is, it's with joining any new team. A team is very weary of someone who comes in from the outside, but after a couple of training sessions and they see that someone has that skill and that passion and that desire, and they fit in within the group, it's like you're one of them and you've been one of them for a long time. So I'm sure I'm glad to hear they're welcoming, and I'm sure you're fitting in phenomenally, and it will continue to go that way. I gotta ask, how's the Latvian food?
Latvian food is honestly, to my surprise, it's pretty good. There's a
Nice.
lot of potatoes and cabbage, which a portion of my family is Polish, so I like that. I grew up with that. And there's a lot of pork and chicken as well. It's
Okay.
well cooked. We have a club restaurant which feeds us 3 times a day, and so there's a couple of elderly Latvian ladies that cook phenomenally. So the food is very, very good, and it's a good environment as well. They know we play for the club, and they welcome us every day, 3 times a day, and it's a very relaxing environment to go and eat in.
That's awesome. I tell you, I'll give you a little advice. Treat the cooks and the tea lady with a lot of respect, right? They'll you treat them with respect and you love them, they'll love you back. All
Oh
right.
yeah, yeah.
Listen, let's jump in just for a couple of minutes here if we could. What is with being a young player like you are, what's something that you think you need to get better at? What is on the field? What is something you're hoping to improve and really this year start to develop more of?
That's an interesting question. I like questions like these because they challenge me. I think there's a couple things. I think I can always improve my discipline off the field,
Yep.
which will help on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question on the field, I think that my awareness can improve just a little bit, and my ability, my leadership skills. I'm a natural leader.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, my leadership skills can improve in the fact that I see the game in a certain way that is not very common among center backs.
Mm-hmm.
And I can manipulate my teammates to do what I want them to do to organize the game and set us up in a way to be very dangerous moving forward and moving quickly because I'm always checking my shoulders. And with better awareness, I know how the other team moves at what time and what the trigger is.
Yep.
And by noticing that one or two steps ahead, I can tell my teammates, hey, if this ball comes here, move this way quickly because I'm going to put the ball into him and he's going to move this way. And then we're in, we're going to score or we have an opportunity. I think that is going to be the thing I really focus on these next couple of months in this new environment.
You know, I absolutely love that answer. The fact that you can manipulate your teammates, and maybe that's not the right word, but um, force teammates to do actions by talking, by putting a ball in a certain place, by playing the ball at a certain speed, by running into certain areas. And it's funny because the game has changed so much. I'm probably about twice your age, but when I was playing, it was the central midfielder, the offensive central midfielder, right, who really dictated how the team played. But it's moved now, and I think it's that center back. It's the center backs. If you look around the professional ranks in the world, it's the center backs who really dictate how the game is played, the pace of it, you know, how we transition as a team. So I think that is one of the smartest answers I've ever heard out of someone your age. And I hope for your fact. I hope you accomplish your goal this year and get better at that because the defensive center, the center backs these days are such a key, and it's really hard to find one who can defend, but also have such good foot skills and leadership skills and push the team in a certain direction. So I love that answer, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. So let me ask this. You gonna be back in the US anytime soon, you think?
I actually do need to renew my passport coming up, so I will have to come back before the season ends.
Okay.
I'm thinking about July. I think we have 2 weeks off, so I
Okay.
should be back in the US.
Well, the when you do come back, let's try and meet up. I'd love to get you in our studio here and interview you again because I am really looking forward to watching you as a player with this Latvian team grow. So we'll have to do a check-in coming up soon.
For sure, I'll keep you in the loop, and I'll let you know when I'm flying home.
Benjamin, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I love the fact that you're a player who has his head on his shoulders. You've said some great words today. I've got one last question. I know you're a young player, but if there's an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old here in Michigan who is training and thinks, you know what, I one day, and is watching this video and goes, I one day want to play just like Benjamin does. I want to get to that professional ranks. What advice would you give to that 8-year-old?
The biggest piece of advice I can give to young players, and I know it's a bit cliche, but I'll say two different things, is to dream big. For example, my goal, and I refuse to use the word dream because there's a bit of surrealism in the word dream. When you use goal, it means you're telling yourself it's achievable one way or another. So my goal the next 2 years is to make the World Cup squad 2026. And I've just signed my first professional contract.
I love it.
So that then tells me that's achievable. That means I need to work at it every single day because success is a lagging indicator, which means I need to edit my habits now to create that lag to put me in the World Cup. If I do the same thing I was doing in England, I might stay here a bit longer. If I change my habits now, then the lag will come where I can move up and then I can edit my system again and then keep moving up and progressing forward. The other piece of advice I would give, which kind of tags on to that, is analyze. There's a system that I like to use, and it's my dad actually taught me this, and it's plan, execute, analyze, and repeat. And it's very, very simple. You need to plan what you do, whether it's training in between seasons, whether it's a little bit of extra work after the training session during the season. You need to plan what you're going to do and be very methodical about it. Execute, have the discipline to get up and do it, and apply yourself when you're doing it. And then the analysis is where you really actually grow because you get to look back, and there's so many opportunities to watch film now. Whereas 5 years ago, my dad was filming on an iPhone and I was trying to watch on an iPhone. So there's so many different VOs and speedios to watch on now. And that analysis portion is where you really grow because you can see the whole picture. And then next time, you know, you're in that situation and you start to recognize things just as if you watch professional football games. You start to recognize things, and then you can actually perform them in real time.
Yeah, I love it. Great answer. Ladies and gentlemen, Benjamin Johns, remember that name because he's already in good places, but he's going higher. I can see it now. He's got the discipline, he's got the work ethic. Benjamin, thank you so much for joining. Good luck, stay healthy, and we'll check in soon.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite. We'll get together in July.
Absolutely.